Ex Halo Infinity and 3v3 devs slam incompetent leadership after Microsoft lays off 10,000 employees. I mean, I don't know. I would say that's unfortunately this is like a very common, what's the word I'm looking for? A very common issue that a lot of these companies that are trying to push into the gaming market run into. New World ran into it, like just all kind of like a bunch of the Amazon games actually ran into it. It's just how it is, unfortunately. And honestly, to a degree, Blizzard even ran into this.
Oof, man, it's been utter carnage across the entire games industry when it comes to layoffs. Amidst this economic recession, we have been seeing more and more corporations prioritize their profit margins over the lives of the human beings who depend on their jobs. And
Dude,
among the
that's
most
always been the
severe
case.
cases of this is Microsoft recently having laid off
Like to think, like you're saying it as if hasn't been the case. That's always been the case. They'll get away with whatever legally they can get away with.
10,000 employees. Remember how big of a deal it was when 4 years ago Activision Blizzard laid off roughly 800 people amidst record revenue year? Well, that pales in comparison to Microsoft's mass layoff. Reported yesterday on January 18th, the bullet points here read, Microsoft said it's letting go of 10,000 employees as the software maker braces for slower revenue growth.
Well, the difference is like with World of Warcraft, it was on a downward trend, and now you're also firing your developers. Like, it really wasn't a good look because it's like you need like what's happening there. Like your game is turning into crap, and you're firing people that could help make the game better.
Growth, and in October,
It
Microsoft
just didn't make
called
sense.
for the slowest quarterly growth since 2016. Divisions all across Microsoft were impacted by this latest round of layoffs, and chief among them were some of the gaming divisions under Microsoft's umbrella. As Jason Schreier reported here, Microsoft is laying off 10,000 people today, including in its gaming divisions such as Xbox and Bethesda. This mass layoff arrives exactly 1 year after Microsoft announced plans to purchase Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. Further details can be found in the article itself titled Microsoft Cuts Include Game Divisions Behind Halo and Starfield.
Maybe it's not making them money, or the projected income just doesn't match what was being put in them. Like they're a company. Like it's about making money.
And scrolling down, it is detailed that some people at Bethesda Game Studios as well as 343 Industries were affected by the layoffs, according to people familiar with the matter. And for today's video, I specifically want to focus on 343 Industries because this is a studio that was hit especially hard by the layoffs, and it's raising some concerns about the future of the Halo franchise.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I've been hearing good things about Halo Infinite lately. But if they're losing a bunch of the developers, like that's probably gonna really cut back on the amount of content they can push out, which is then gonna make the game worse, which is just a
Not just
vicious
more
cycle.
junior staff who are affected by this. Some of the people who lost their jobs were veterans who had been with Xbox for more than a decade. To address this unfortunate situation, here's what 343 Industries studio head Pierre Hint said to employees and to staff via email, as reported here by Bloomberg. He told staff that the company made the difficult decision to restructure elements of our team, which means some roles are being eliminated. Now,
well, there's nothing wrong with that. Like if as a business find roles that are like, well, what are they doing? What are they bringing to the company? And it turns out it's not much. Why would you keep them?
how hard 343 in particular was hit by the layoffs, that left many within the studio wondering, what does this mean for the future of Halo Infinite? And apparently what employees were told is that the studio would continue supporting Halo Infinite's multiplayer and live service elements. It's a shame that this is happening during a time when Halo Infinite seems to be back on the rise with the launch of the Forge mode, through which we've seen tons of amazing user-created content populate the game, and that has re-engaged people back into Halo Infinite after a tumultuous launch period. It sucks that this is happening just as Halo Infinite seems to be catching some momentum again. it just raises questions as to whether Halo Infinite will have the manpower and resources to really make some kind of major recovery, especially when Joe Staten, the creative director and Halo veteran who joined 343 in 2020 to help steer Halo Infinite to the finish line, will depart that outfit and rejoin Xbox's broader publishing division. While he's not leaving Microsoft outright, he is no longer at 343 specifically. He's going to...
I don't think they need him anymore. Like, I'll be just straight up honest. Like, they've been already got to a point where I think he can help, and now it's just more innovation.
And take on a broader role at Xbox, and that means he can't focus on Halo Infinite, and he was such a big part for why Halo Infinite was able to release in the first place amidst that tumultuous development cycle. Jason Schreier added additional context via this follow-up tweet that reads, Microsoft won't share specific numbers, but several employees have told me that 343 Industries was hit hard. This comes in the wake of a long-running hiring freeze and a lot of contractor departures. Meanwhile, executives are being paid ridiculous sums of money, receiving dozens of millions of dollars worth of compensation. Right here, Jason Schreier made it a point to highlight that Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella made $54.95 million in total compensation last year. Now,
I think one thing gaming companies are running into is that they're overpaying the people who have very little involvement in the success of the company, which is the games. Like, it seems weird to me that these people are getting paid way more than the people making the games good.
Going back to Joseph Staten, a number of outlets made it a point to highlight the important role that he played for Halo Infinite and previous Halo entries. So this Video Games Chronicle article, for example, noted that Joseph Staten previously worked on the very first Halo titles, among the more renowned Halo titles in the series, mostly focusing on story and characters. Staten was made project lead for Halo Infinite's campaign mode. And then Gene Park from the Washington Post.
I mean, characters is a pretty good thing, but story, I mean, let's be fair, Halo didn't have the most gripping of stories. It was good, but I don't think anyone, like, I don't know. I didn't really play Halo with, like, wanting to know. The story was just, like, really cool. Like, really good gunplay. Master Chief being really cool. That's why I said the characters, I think he did a really good job with.
Provided additional background about Joseph Staten, stating that Staten was the lead writer of the original Halo games under Bungie, which are all actually cherished. He made a lot of changes to Infinite that were welcome. He was very much a positive force for 343 Industries and one of the last bastions of the IP, which he was there for since the beginning. And now with him gone, you know, that's going to definitely be a significant blow to the Halo franchise. Specifically, I think Staten's departure marks the end of additional support for the game's campaign mode, which Staten was made project lead of. That seems doubly likely when you consider that when Pierre...
I didn't even know they had a campaign mode. I thought Infinite was just pure PvP, multiplayer.
Hints talked to staff about how we're going to move forward with Halo Infinite. He specifically mentioned that they're going to continue support for Halo Infinite's multiplayer and live service elements, but there's no mention here about additional support for the game's campaign, which really sucks because I really do feel like Halo Infinite's open world campaign has a ton of potential for further expansion. There's a co-op mode that never really came to light, that was canceled last minute, even though there is a co-op mode in the game that data miners found that works well enough as it is that they could have finished.
What?
Enjoyers of Halo campaigns, I think, were really done dirty with Halo Infinite. Gene Park does try to sprinkle in some optimism by pointing out that the new studio boss, Pierre Hintz, was part of the Master Chief Collection turnaround. That was a collection that had a very rough launch, but is now universally beloved, and so maybe Pierre can steer the ship in the right direction, but it doesn't change the fact that all of this is definitely going to have a negative impact on morale at the studio, and ultimately valuable talent was lost. Others who lost their job include Christopher Blom, who, according to LinkedIn, was the design lead for a number of years and has been with 343 Industries since 2012 for over a decade, but that unfortunately didn't make him immune to Microsoft's layoff crosshairs. And it goes without saying that people within 343 Industries are heartbroken by these latest developments, and some developers have taken to speaking out about just the piss-poor leadership that they saw working at 343 Industries. Gene Park spotlighted Patrick Wren's tweet here, who was the former Halo senior multiplayer designer. Here's what Patrick Wren had to say about this whole situation. Had some pretty scathing and blunt words to share. The layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened, and Halo Infinite should be in a better state. The reason for both of those things is incompetent leadership up top during Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be. Poor leadership ultimately being responsible for the
Yeah, and what's sad is like this poor leadership are the ones that are getting bonuses for the hard work of the developers a lot of the time.
failure of a major project should come as no surprise, even though the tendency for corporations is to try to shift the blame and onus of a project's failure to employees and staff who did their best and worked the hardest they could under the piss poor conditions.
It's the fault of the employees when things go wrong, and it's the vision of like leadership on why things went right. Is usually the case.
That they were given. The fact of the matter is that more often than not, it tends to be that poor leadership steered the ship astray and led to disastrous results. And you can see right here that a former senior developer at 343 Industries had no reservations about spotlighting this, about making sure that people know that poor leadership was to blame for Halo Infinite's failure, and not the lack of talent within 343 Industries or the lack of working hard enough. It was just a poorly managed project. Patrick Wren proceeded to add that the people I worked every day with were passionate about Halo and wanted to make something great for the fans. They helped push for a better Halo and got laid off for it. Developers still there are working hard on that dream. Look at Forge. Be kind to them during this awful time. It's too early to say that this is going to mark the death of Halo. We'll see how things continue to develop for the game in the coming weeks, months, and years,
at the very least.
even with this sort of diminished
Like if I was a Halo Infinite player, like I would be worried.
Team with talent that has been stripped away.
It really sucks.
But certainly this is not going to be positively impactful. And apparently Patrick Wren is not alone in having these sentiments. Jason Schreier reports via this tweet that the strong public words mirror what he's heard from many other Halo developers. Other problems, as we have reported, included the tools and a heavy reliance on contractors who had to be let go after 18 months. An aspect that Patrick Wren also complains about when another former developer who worked on Halo Infinite tweeted, "Don't forget the heavy reliance on contractors/vendors and that messed up system. Though I know that's more Microsoft, I would have loved to stay on the team if I could have and worked my way up. Still one of my favorite jobs I have been at." Patrick Wren responded with, "Oh man, the contract stuff is a whole other can of worms that pisses me off. So many amazing people and talent that just disappeared." Former developer for Halo Infinite, Nick, has no problem calling out Microsoft specifically, and below you'll find that a number of developers have responded by agreeing, saying, "Yup." Another developer who's not afraid to call out Microsoft is Tyler Owens here, who worked at 343 Industries during the Halo 5 era. He said, "As a Halo fan, I'm really tired of Microsoft business practices and policies slowly killing the thing I love. Between the contracting policies they abuse for tax incentives and layoffs in the face of gigantic profit/executive bonuses, they set up Halo for failure." Many developers are just getting fed up with corporate bullshit. Tyler Owens straight up just says, "I really don't care if I should be saying this or not publicly anymore. Screw it. I'm done just kind of being silent and watching all of this unfold and not being able to say anything about it." Developers are becoming less and less afraid to speak out, especially after how in recent years, after developers spoke out, tangible changes have happened. We've seen more unionization happen, so on and so forth. Now, there are those at 343 Industries who've been lucky enough to dodge the Microsoft bullet. Alex Wakeford here, who is a community writer at 343 Industries, tweeted, "Appreciate the concerned messages I've been receiving. I'm still at 343, but many incredible people are not. People who I was in work calls with as usual, not knowing it was their last one before the news hit. Those folks have contributed more to Halo than many will ever know." Now, this Twitter user I don't believe is related to Halo or 343. He's an official artist for Magic and Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot, but he did comment on the recent situation, saying that Microsoft laying off 10,000 people while investing $10 billion in OpenAI is a major road sign for where we are headed, with Microsoft's investment in AI also being something that Bloomberg briefly highlighted in their article cover.
I mean, that was going to be obvious, though. I mean, any company that isn't looking towards AI being able to save labor costs is kind of stupid. It's why every grocery store has automated checkout now.
Covering the layoffs, Microsoft said that despite the mass layoffs, they still plan to hire people in strategic, competitive areas such as artificial intelligence. The goal being to make the workforce leaner by having artificial intelligence software take over what human beings can do. Here's a 2D
They fired Master Chief for Katana.
Artist who responded to Tyler Walpole's tweet about the recent layoffs by noting how scary it is the way Microsoft is investing so much in AI. Microsoft diving headfirst into the AI game is scary as hell to look at. They've already implemented an AI generator in their graphic design software, and it almost made me not want to use Windows anymore from the rage I felt. Tyler responded by speculating that AI is going to replace most white-collar jobs in very short order. It seems that's certainly a possibility. That's certainly a future that corporations would welcome. The more automated things can be, the less people they have to hire, the less they have to deal with human beings and their desire to be treated as human beings rather than as tools to be discarded and exploited. The less corporations have to spend and the more control they can exert over the way their company runs. And keep in mind that as far as 343,
Well, of course, they have all control on how their company can run. It's their company. They can't do illegal things, which I don't think is going to change with AI or not. Because, I mean, unless you're talking about like forced overtime, but it's like AI doesn't matter. Not right now, at least. Not until it gets to a point where maybe they're conscious, in which case that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I mean, this was always the future. Like anyone who thought otherwise was kind of in a delusional state.
3 specifically is concerned, this also comes after a number of major senior departures. As Video Games Chronicle reported in a series of articles back in December of 2022, Halo Infinite's multiplayer director Tom French quit 343. Here we have an article detailing that Halo Studio 343 is reportedly losing another member of its leadership team.
But wasn't the leadership the main reason why it's going bad, or was it corporate leadership?
Referring to engineering director David Berger, this was reported back in September of 2022. Before that, we saw that 343 Industries head Bonnie Ross left 343 back in September of 2022. And even before the game's launch, we
Yeah, but hers was a medical issue from what I just saw in that article.
saw major turnover for some very important roles. Back in October of 2020, Halo Infinite lost another director. Chris Lee is no longer working on the game following its recent delay. People could just feel that there was something off about the way the studio was being managed long before the rough and tumultuous launch of Halo Infinite. And now, following the game's launch, not only are we seeing that continue, but Microsoft's own mismanagement has led to talented and important key players in 343 getting the boot. And given that all this is happening during a low point in the Halo series, and sure, Forge helped spruce things up a bit, but we're far from Halo Infinite reaching its maximum potential.
Well, I don't think it would ever reach its maximum potential. It's a live service game, so there's not really an end goal in a sense. But it never got to a point where, like, people who didn't or weren't really interested in Halo Infinite would be interested in trying it out.
It just sucks to see all this happening on top of that, and it just raises more concerns as to whether 343 and the Halo IP can have a bright future ahead of them. But regardless of what your opinion might be on the current state of...
Yeah, time's going to tell on that. Like, I would say in the next, 6 months to a year is really going to tell the story on what's going to be happening with Halo Infinite.
Halo or the current state of 343, the fact remains that it sucks when people lose their jobs. People who, made an earnest effort to do their best work possible under shitty circumstances. So to those people, I hope you land on your feet. I hope you find greener pastures ahead. And for the people who are still at 343 Industries,
It also sucks because, a recession is, already on its way in a sense. So
hopefully this is something that the studio can rebound from. And, we don't want to lose the Halo IP. We really want to see it return gloriously in the future. So hopefully that's something that can happen. Only time will tell what the future will look.
I would say most people, yeah. I wasn't just... The reason why I wasn't interested in Infinite myself was because I thought it was just multiplayer only. And I didn't really... I played Halo for multiplayer, but with, friends. And since those friends don't really play Halo anymore, I'm like, okay, well, I'll play for the campaign now, but sounds like the campaign's going to be a bust.
Look like for 343 and Halo Infinite. In the meantime, though, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on these latest developments surrounding Microsoft's mass layoff that has severely impacted 343 in particular, and how you think this will impact the future of the studio and the Halo IP as a whole. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on YongYea. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.
He's still doing that outro. That's funny. Like I've seen YongYea for like a long time, and I still remember like his first videos when he was doing that. Anyways, it's a good. It is a good video. Like very informative. Like YongYea has some of the most informative videos out there. Um, yeah. I mean, this really does suck, especially if you're a Halo fan and you're enjoying or we're looking forward to Infinite. Like with its, because I've been hearing like it's just been getting slowly but better. Like it's been getting better but very slowly. But for this to happen, it's just like, man, is it gonna end up like Anthem? Like, hopefully not, but we'll see.